Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. This is our third installment of the Edge Expert Series presented by Schneider Electric. My name is Andrew Poland. I'm the segment director for our national sales organization within our U.S. business, and I'll be your host for today. You're stuck with me. I'm back again, but I do have a pretty cool guest with me. Now, if this is your first time joining us, don't worry. There's no bad time to join the conversation. The content that we're going to talk about today, I think, is very relevant, timely, and I believe resonates with all businesses. And then the topic is operations and maintenance of your distributed IT environment. So, as I mentioned, with me, I have Mr. Brett Wheelis. He's the vice president of our managed services organization within North America, and he's got extensive experience working with clients, helping them navigate all of the challenges and dealing with technologies of today to ensure that there's an effective operations and maintenance model in place within their business. So, Brett, appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. I look forward to actually sharing some best practices, some operational best practices. The distributed IT space can be a tricky environment, and it can be a challenge balancing the needs for uptime as well as cost. So, look forward to sharing those thoughts with you.
Great. So before we get into that, I do want to take a few minutes to just step back, do a quick recap of what we've covered in our first two episodes. Now, I think we all agree, and we pretty much aligned on the fact that everyone, everywhere is dealing with or undergoing some level of a digital transformation impacting their business. I mean, we continue to see it with all these different technologies, IoT, machine learning, augmented reality, cloud computing. I mean, it's all over the place. And the thing is, these technologies are really what enables the competitive advantages for these businesses in the market. So, I mean, as a consumer, you really see it all the time. In retail, frictionless shopping, you can scan and buy a product. The digital classroom, the days that a report card comes home through the mail is over. You get it on the phone and it's instantaneous. You have digital textbooks, the digital patient care within healthcare. It's incredible. It's all over the place. But the issue is these technologies come with a lot of challenges. Latency, bandwidth, regulatory requirements, a lot of challenges that your traditional data center architecture really can't support. So in order to work through it, some practical adjustments need to be made. So wherever you are in your digital journey or however you feel about these technologies and where we really are in the market, we can't deny that edge applications are here today and changes do need to be made. So when we talk about these practical adjustments, really that's what this series covers. So the first two episodes, we covered two of the ones that we think are really most important. The first being standard designs. So when you deploy a standard design, it allows for rapid deployment and improved cost and risk model, really driving down CapEx. And when you design with connectivity in mind, connectivity being very key, it allows for transparency and visibility of the space. So, and that's what we covered in episode 2. So when you get into transparency and visibility, we're really talking about all the data that's out there that's available to make better decisions, better strategic decisions. You have the ability to have remote management controls. There's predictability. And when you think about these various software management platforms out there, a cloud-based platform is available. It's something that you can look at. And when you do, if you do deploy a cloud-based software management platform, it can significantly reduce complexity. So, standard designs, designing with connectivity in mind, leveraging transparency and visibility, you're setting the stage to transform the way you operate and maintain and manage your distributed IT network. And that's why we're really here today. So, Brett, when our view, I believe, is fairly simplified. The idea of the centralized data center all the way to the local edge application. Can you just help us understand how this all looks?
Sure. So let's start with the model itself. I mean, really the way the system works, edge computing is really about putting compute processing storage closer to the user, to where the data is being consumed, if you will. And they typically are using a hybrid model where certain IT loads and applications are being housed, if you will, in a central or regional location, while others are being deployed in that edge environment. Um, what you have really is an expectation in these edge settings that they're mission critical. They're not unlike your traditional data center expectations, and as such, they have to have a certain sense of reliability. If you have a point of sale machine or an MRI machine go down, that's a significant financial risk to that customer. And really, the overarching goal here is to reduce latency, reduce cost, and reduce risk. It's ultimately what you're looking for.
So, I hinted earlier that these edge deployments have tons of challenges. Didn't really kind of get into what it looks like. Uh, it's clear that these edge applications are much more mission critical and almost as mission critical as a data center. What are some of the real life issues that clients are running into?
Sure. So I mentioned availability and data security. I mean, this is at their heart, if you will. When somebody goes to transact at a retail store, they're sometimes using an application to do that. They have data security requirements that go with that. They expect those point of sale machines to be up and running. Oftentimes, there is a minimal on-site or no on-site present by a facility engineer that can correct a problem should it occur. These assets typically are geographically dispersed over a wide range. If you kind of think about maybe even a telco edge setting where it could be out in the middle of nowhere, that's a challenge from a services perspective. They also want to understand and deploy software so they can understand when there's a possible risk of an issue, if you will, that would cause a challenge. And then the last piece of it is they want, if there is a problem that's going to occur, they want quick, cost-effective resolution to get somebody on site to take care of that problem.
So it's clear we need to operate and maintain differently, but really, Brett, what's the starting point? I mean, I've said it a few times: connectivity, connectivity, connectivity. But what does that really mean? What's the starting point for all of this?
Connectivity is at the heart of what we're doing. You have to have smart products that allow you to connect easily and then be able to transmit the data that you can take action on. That is the essential starting point for the ideal and most robust operational model, if you will. From there, it's then about the software. It's about the software that you can deploy and utilize with that data. And when you think about the software, there's a couple key questions that you need to consider. One, does that software operate product agnostic, meaning can it connect to anything? Secondly, can it integrate analytics, if you will? Does it have mobility? These are some of the really important features and functions that you need to understand in order to operationalize, come up with an ideal operational model for a distributed IT edge setting. Also, is once that software is in place, you want to be able to leverage a team, a remote team of experts that can actually take advantage of that data and then inform what actions need to be taken on site with a field technician. So it's really a combination of having the products that can easily connect. It's about leveraging software that's flexible, and it's about using that data with remote experts who can drive and pinpoint what exactly needs to be done when actions need to be taken on site.
So very clear, and we're talking about a lot of doing things differently, but let's backtrack a little bit. Help us understand what's the traditional model? How have people been doing this for years?
Yeah, the traditional model is that customers often take a task-based, schedule-based maintenance model. That's the starting point. Is manufacturers will make recommendations around their equipment and state basically that I have to do X on some frequency. Well, oftentimes manufacturers tend to be conservative in their recommendations, and they want to sit there and basically say, what's the worst case environment that these pieces of equipment are going to operate in, and set a maintenance schedule that's part of that, if you will. So that's the one key part of that. The second part of it is if you think about repairs, if you will, people are running to fail. If you look at the vast majority of customers out there, oftentimes, particularly in a distributed IT environment, when they've got a single phase UPS or something like that, they're just going to run it and replace it. But with this, this evolution, if you will,
Mhm.
to the edge setting and the criticality of the applications that they're feeding, that run to fail mode is not a recipe for success, if you will. So that's another key part of the equation that you need to keep in mind. So really, the last piece of it is that when the field tech, actually the service provider that you're working with, the field tech that they're sending is the one that's available. Doesn't necessarily mean it has the right skill set, doesn't necessarily mean they come prepared with the right parts. Those are all kind of challenges that are inherent in your traditional preventive maintenance approach.
So, Brett, it's funny you said that. I heard you say run to fail a couple times. I don't know how many times I've talked to customers and they said, "Oh, we're just going to run to fail," and then I get this crazy call about how it's an emergency and they can't be down and they need something quickly and we need to overnight and all this crazy stuff that comes with it. So, it's clear we need to optimize our operations and maintenance model. But what does that new model really look like?
Sure. Well, again, keeping in mind, it starts with the connectivity and the software, which gives you real-time access to the performance of your equipment. That's going to inform decision-making about what needs to be done. So that's the starting point of it. The secondly is the software is robust enough. It's including analytics that hopefully will catch a problem before it occurs, which is really a key part of this. It avoids the situation where a customer has something go wrong and they have to pick up the phone and go
Mhm.
through a
Oh,
variety
yeah.
of call center interactions
Center.
to be able
Mhm.
to get that thing resolved. So that's another key part about it. And then really the third part about it is that if and when a problem does arise, the technician that's going on site has a good handle on what the root cause of that problem is, and is going to be the right person with the right skill set, coming with the right parts to be able to fix that problem and get that site up and running quickly.
Yeah. So I hear everything you're saying, but it's easy to talk in theory. Um, no one likes to be a guinea pig. We want to try to understand, are there customers out there who have been doing this, who have seen results? I mean, are we selling snake oil here? I mean, who has done this and what have they really gotten from it?
Sure, absolutely. Got a great example. In this particular case, we have a large retail store chain, and they have a national footprint. And it's been a long time customer who actually had a large fleet of aged UPS devices deployed in their stores. And over time, they had issues and challenges with that, and they really decided back in 2016 to actually evolve what they
Mhm.
wanted to do. So they started to modernize some of the equipment.
Yeah.
Obviously, they wanted to get the latest and greatest again from a smart,
Mhm.
smart device with connectivity with it, and then they deployed software which provided visibility, and they leveraged a team of remote experts, our experts in this particular case, to be able to catch issues when they occurred or before they occurred, and really changed the dynamic of how they were approaching maintenance. And really the net result of all of that is
Mhm.
that there was a reduction in outages. There was an increase in productivity. They had numerous benefits to this particular customer. So this is definitely not snake oil. There's definitely a real benefits to this approach.
So those results that you just described are fantastic, right? So now if it's me, I'm kind of thinking, all right, well, how do I do this? I want to get this off the ground. How long is it going to take me? I mean, what is the reality of how long it takes to get to the point from today to where I have actually somebody looking at my environment?
Sure. Well, it starts with knowing your install base. I mean, you got to
Yeah.
know the age of the equipment that you're talking about. Do you have the ability to connect, or
Hmm.
do you need to come up with a plan before you get to that point of modernizing your install base so you can get the right pieces of equipment in there and really move forward with that? I think the other thing to keep in mind, you mentioned at the beginning of the discussion about standard design, if you will. In a perfect world, in a greenfield setting, you can standardize that design with operations in mind down the line with that connectivity, with the software, and that makes this a very transparent. But in most cases, you're dealing with brownfield situations where customers have a mix of assets and of various ages and vintages, and it requires a really an understanding of that install base,
Hmm.
the ability to know what type of products that you want to put in that are going to provide that connectivity, and then making the smart decisions about what type of software that you need in order to connect to that and then drive your condition or predictive based maintenance.
Yeah, and I think it's great. I think it's not that hard, right? Brett kind of covered a couple key things there with understanding the install base, but it doesn't have to be a brand new deployment. It can be part of a refresh. It can be done in stages, and it's fairly easy to make this happen. So I think the reality of all this stuff are these practical adjustments are required to manage through all of these edge applications and efficiently deploy them, right? These spaces, these distributed IT environments are becoming so much more mission critical, just as mission critical as your traditional centralized data center space, and they need the attention, they need the love, they need the care, and we need to be effectively manage it all, whether it is a standard design, whether it's through your software management platform, but all feeding this optimized operations and maintenance model. And so Brett, you shared with us a lot of valuable insights. This is really becoming a key pillar of businesses overall, of many businesses' overall strategy. So what are some of the just, I guess, key, most valuable insights or takeaways that we can leave everybody with today?
Absolutely. So there's really three big ones, and I've hit on these a number of times, and you'll notice a common theme here with the way we're approaching this is that it starts with having the connectivity and the product that supplies that data and information. It's got to be easy. It's got to be simple, straightforward. That's the first part, is make sure that you have a product that can provide the data that is easy to connect to. The second piece is understand the software. The software you need to have, whether it's cloud-based or what have you. Ideally, it's cloud-based, but you want a software platform that's flexible, that can work seamlessly with different manufacturers, because oftentimes customers have a mix of assets, and you need to have that flexibility of being able to connect to those devices, pull the right information, and ideally automate I would say the efforts to find issues and faults before they happen. And then the last piece of it is you want to drive towards a condition or predictive-based maintenance approach. I mean, the connectivity and the software are enablers. That's all they are. They're tools to help you get to a different type of maintenance model, away from a traditional preventive maintenance program. What you want is condition and predictive, because that's ultimately where you're going to find reduced cost and reduce risk if you can evolve your model to that. And really, that's that when you look at some of the research that's been done, it's pretty clear that when you run to fail, that is the most expensive proposition that you're going to have, both in terms of time and money. That model is not effective in today's distributed IT environment. You need to get away from that and move into your condition and predictive maintenance for cost efficiencies and ultimately reduction in risk.
Great. So Brett, a lot of good stuff. We appreciate your time here. Great key takeaways, and especially you hit on it at the end, the ROI and the ability to get a strong return on investment very quickly. You know, the way we used to do it is just simply not viable in a way we can do it anymore. And you know, as we look ahead to our next episode, and it'll be our fourth installment, where we close it all out and bring it all back together, it's really around taking all these elements that we've discussed in each of the first three episodes and wrapping it into a profitable business model. Because when you think about edge applications, your distributed IT network, and it's again the basis for you for setting the stage for competitive advantage in the market that differentiates you and really drives a better customer experience. This is all becoming a critical element of your business strategy. So we're going to talk a lot about how it all comes together and really can be managed as a profitable business model. So make sure you join us on November 13th, where we close it out. Final episode of the season, and we look forward to seeing you. Thank you all for joining us, and have a great rest of the afternoon.